I am not touching it.
Okay, so we are live, Jerry.
All right. Okay, so we are live. So namaste once again, everybody, and good evening. And welcome to the launch of the Rex Karmaveer Global Student Storytelling Fellowship that we are launching in schools across India. So over to you, Itu.
Thank you, Jerry. Namaste to everybody. And absolutely stoked and excited to have Aditi ji, Amit, and Tara with us on the first talk series and podcast of the coveted, innovative, and very, very unique fellowship for the students across India, for school students. And we call it the Rex Karmaveer Global Student Story Telling Fellowship and the Karmaveer Chakra Awards. There is this fellowship is unique, and we are going to talk about it a little later. We're going to pick Jerry's brains on it, and we're going to ask him questions at the fag end of our conversation. But this fellowship is an endeavor to bring in uniqueness and to bring in inspiration and to bring in learning for students across India. And we've tried to bring in realism and real life stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary work in their lives. And that's where we want to inspire students with those kind of story writing and storytelling procedures. With the storytelling, we are going to bring a very holistic overview and learning in the program and the fellowship that we are going to be soft launching and launching. This is today's the first talk, and we are very happy to have with us a parent, a school leader, and a student to be talking themselves about what it entails to bring in story as a learning medium. So a very warm welcome and namaste once again.
Thank you.
So I'm going to be starting with Tara. And Tara, I would want you to briefly introduce yourself in just like 2 minutes, and then we go from there.
I'm Tara Datta. I go to school at Step by Step School, and I'm in grade 7. I love writing and reading, and one of my favorite assignments is creative writing.
Yeah. Tara is also an aspiring author, and I'm so happy that at 11, she knew that what is it that she wants to do. And she has a beautiful page on the Facebook called Tara Reads, where she writes what she feels, and we'll talk more about that. Amit and Aditi ji will just introduce yourself and tell us a little about yourself, and then we take it from there.
So I've been in the space of education for nearly 40 years now, and there's nowhere else I'd rather be. I love being with children. I love to see what they do, what they think, and I think they really are the hope for the future. And with the kind of programs that you run, I hope that we will see so much more good and creative and value-based work happening, because that's what I look forward to with children.
Thank you so much, Aditi ji. And Aditi ji is our Rex Karmaveer Maharatna recipient, and she's been our guiding force and has been guiding us through our various initiatives in the education field. And we've launched a lot of education programs with her guidance and with her participation. Thank you so much, Aditi ji, for your trust and steadfast support to us. Thank you so much.
Always there. Thank you.
Amit.
I am Tara's very proud father. By way of background, I'm a lawyer. I make my living as a lawyer. I specialize in intellectual property. And I'm absolutely kicked with the fact that Tara likes creative writing and likes expressing herself. So that's a lot of what I do. And I'm delighted that she has been asked by you all to be on this first podcast or discussion. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amit. And your speaking and your writing in itself is very legendary in the field of IP law, etc. So we will talk about all that later. So Tara, Jerry, would you like to say something at this point?
No, you carry on.
All right. So Tara, I would like you to tell me that you write, and you tell stories. And I know that you tell stories from the time when you were a very little girl.
Yeah.
Yes. So tell us, and tell everybody in the audience who's listening into you, tell us your style of storytelling. What is it that you like, and what is your style of storytelling?
Well, I've always leaned towards creative writing when it came to writing because I feel that in a report, while it is informative with data, I lean towards creative because I can visually express myself and I love using the senses to allow a reader to immerse themselves into my writing.
Lovely. And Tara is also, I'd like to share with the audience, Tara is also the student ambassador of the Rex Karmaveer Global Student Storytelling Fellowship. So Tara, tell me that how do you like about the program? You read everything and you know all of it. What do you think about it?
I like that it encourages younger people to write because I think that younger people have a fresh outlook onto life and allowing them to put their thoughts onto paper is really inspiring.
So you'd like to carry on writing, and would you like to talk about something that you've written that has stood out? One thing that stood out for me when Tara started to write, and it absolutely synergized with our work during COVID, was when she wrote about the boy who harnessed the wind, the book, and William Kombwamba. And that at that time we had done a podcast with William Kombwamba. Jerry had done that, and we done a whole research where we brought in that learning in our program for young students, that you know our slug line was some stand and make windmills and some hide from the winds. So how do you bring in your resilience? I think the line, I'm not quoting it very well, Jerry would do that later. So we talked about resilience, and we talked about how this young boy, you know although there was a lot of things going uh, not going for him, but he brought in such a resilience and learning for everybody in the world, that the world looked upon and looked up to him later. So Tara, you'd written about that, and that's when I shared everything about our story writing with you. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. I remember my mom showing me the message and I was really happy.
Yeah. And I'd like to tell everybody, Tara, you're 11 plus. Are you already 12?
I'm 12 plus. I'm turning
You're
13.
12 plus. All right. Thank you so much, Tara. I'm moving on to Aditi ji. Aditi ji, I'd like you to share with the audience, what do you think about the storytelling initiative that we've launched? And I know that, storytelling and writing and all of that has been used as a medium in your school big time. You've been really immersed into this initiative in a different way in your school. So what do you think about this whole initiative at our end that we are starting with the school students?
So, actually, this initiative has many dimensions. So, one is, of course, the pedagogical one, that you teach through a story, and it becomes so much more interesting. If you tell anything through a story or through an anecdote, it suddenly makes more sense to, I think, the learner and the teacher both. But for me, at this juncture, I think it's high time we gave our children voices. It's high time we heard what they have to say. They have a lot to say, and somewhere they're being just swarmed with academics, and I'm sorry to say this on an open platform, but the expectations that society, teachers, parents, neighbors, uncles, aunts, dadis, nannies put on them, and somewhere in all that pressure of expectations, that creativity withers and dies away. So someone allowing them to come and speak, come and talk, come and tell a story makes so much sense, especially at this time, that, I mean, hats off to you and Jerry for even thinking of this. The third dimension which comes to my mind is, it will definitely take children away from this. They're
Excellent.
they're stuck to their phones and their tablets, not because, I have a theory that people get into something because there's nothing else to do.
True.
We were reading. There was TV. I mean, I'm not from the Stone Age, so there was TV, but I was so into reading that I didn't look at TV too often. Even now, that's the last thing I go to. I'd rather read a book. I'd rather write something. So if we give children a chance to do something which they enjoy, and then they see it in print, and they see others reading it and enjoying it and getting inspired, I think we won one major battle that we constantly seem to be having with social media.
True.
I was joking once that why don't we teach the Ohm's law or the mole concept through Instagram? I'm sure they'll get it much faster than any other way. So maybe a story around whatever is happening. And then the fourth one, telling the story of uncommon people. Each time you've had the Rex function in whether in my school or in Shiv Nadar or once in the JMC, I think you came back gobsmacked at the kind of work people are doing in the world. We
Yes.
live in cocoons. There's just no time to look at what else is happening, and people like me are scared to pick up the newspaper because newspapers only report negative stuff. So through Rex, through iCongo, we get to know unusual stories, of people who are doing amazing work in various fields. So I think picking out everyday heroes and talking about them gives everybody a chance to celebrate that unsung hero and trying to be like him or her.
Thank you so much, Aditi ji. And I would like to share with the audience. Some of you have joined for the first time, some of you already know what we do. So, at the Rex Karamveer Global Fellowship and the mission for last 20 years, we have been endeavoring to tell stories of unsung heroes, people who are sitting in the cronies and crevices of the world globally. We bring out those stories and we bring out those ideas and share it with the world to make it into a bigger idea, to join hands and create inspiration for the world at large. And Aditi ji, I'd just like to share that this program and this initiative, we've been sitting on it and researching and mulling over it for almost 3+ years.
Yeah.
And we tried to bring in various dimensions and facets of learning into it. So we just didn't want to make it into a storytelling fellowship. We wanted it to be unique. We wanted it to be innovative. We wanted it to be creative, full of empathy, kindness, critical thinking, design thinking, innovation. And that's why we thought, why not bring in some life skills into it? And also, why not talk about real life heroes, ordinary people? It could be, and you and I know, and everybody knows here, Tara also, that, there are people who are doing such great work and they're
Yeah.
not talking about it on the social media. They're not talking about it, but on their own, steadfast, they're just doing what they need to do and inspiring the world to bring in change and create a legacy. And that has been the hallmark of our mission, to bring in people to inspire the world. And that's what we thought, that students need to know about real life heroes, celebrities, Bollywood heroes, Hollywood heroes, cricketers. They are doing what they need to do, but ordinary people are doing something extraordinary, and that needs to be written. And it could be probably, the janitor in your school, it could be the mali in your school, it could be one of the teachers in your school, it could be your fellow student or your father or mother doing things. Those are the little stories which are relatable, which needs to be told. And that's how we're trying to bring in learning for the students. And we'll talk about how we are different, how much more we've tried to, encapsulate into this program for the children so that they go home with equipped with life skills. So, Amit, I'm going to throw the same question to you. Is that what do you think about this initiative in the program and the fellowship?
Um, I one of my main grouses as a lawyer when I work with younger people is, I spend a lot of time wishing that younger people had a more interest in reading widely and writing, because I think that regardless of the profession you travel into later in life, your ability to express yourself is such a fundamental concept when you are engaging and communicating with people. You could be a salesperson, you could be marketing, financial, lawyer, scientist. Communication, I think, is the key. And a lot of that comes with, an innate ability to communicate, obviously, and express yourself, but all of that is added to how much you read. So I think, initiatives like this are absolutely crucial, because in today's world, as Aditi ma'am said, of the phone, this sort of recognition for younger people of that ability and that talent is, I think, so important to make this, or give it a chance of success. Uh, So, a fellowship series like this on storytelling and the recognition of younger people, where they become ambassadors for storytelling and creative expression, I think, and the recognition especially is absolutely crucial to be able to foster that sort of ecosystem. I think as a parent, nothing better, because I can see Tara as a young person get galvanized and so interested. And as a parent who stays with, and she stays with us and we stay with her, I constantly get surprised by the fact that, my child can express herself. And that's such a fundamental concept.
Yeah. I think you're very right. And I think in this age and era of digital, everything being digitized, people are wanting to just maybe spend time doing things on the social media, or just, I don't even feel the real feel on Kindle. When people are even reading, and it's research has proven that white light is not great for us. White light is not great for sleep. White light is not great for mental health as well. Whereas vis-a-vis reading or writing, how that actually helps the mind, helps the mental health, helps so many other faculties of not just child, but anybody who's trying to indulge in those activities. Thank you, Amit. At this point, Aditi, just tell us more that, how have you been using storytelling as a medium in your school as a school leader, and how it has shifted things for the teachers as well as for students? Because we have seen that through our 20 years of work and through the book series of Jerry, which are called Karma Kari, where we're talking about ordinary people. We're talking about Lakshman Singh, we are talking about Dashrath Manji, we are talking about Tulsi Mullah, very ordinary people. How they changed the way people thought, how they shifted the mindset. And that's why we at the Rex talk about not just talks, but ideas for action. How does it inspire? So I'd like you to share something from there with all of us.
So there are two, three things that we do at school, and I've shared some of these practices, and I know some other schools are following it as well. So one is the storytelling, which starts at a very young age with teachers, just demystifying even the academic bit and making a story around it. It just becomes more interesting. That pedagogy has become so successful that instead of limiting it to only the pre-primary years, we've actually brought it in up to junior school. The second thing which we sort of dabbled with during the pandemic was creating stories around very dull, dry concepts of science and maths. So,
Okay.
teaching the children, for example, laws of motion through a story about a cricket match. And the whole thing was built around that one story of two brothers going and playing a cricket match. And it came out so well that it's now on the Diksha portal of the government of India.
Oh,
Um,
congratulations.
so yeah, I mean, but the whole idea is that um, children need to be connected to what they are studying. It should not be studied because there's going to be an exam and you need to get good marks. They will definitely forget. So when a child tells me that, oh, I learned this last year, but now I've forgotten, it means it's not been taught well enough. It's as simple as that. And probably our wiring has changed because there was no storytelling when we were in school. We learned the good old fashioned way, but I remember everything I studied. But today's child has probably got so many other options that you have to do something to make it interesting for them. When the pandemic started, there was a publishing house which sort of had some of us talking to them and talking about what they can do, because for a publishing house it meant the end of life, because they're not going to be able to do anything. So I suggested that they should get children to start not just reading but also writing. And you have like you have mentors. They had mentors who would talk to children and help them, build their story in a certain way. A lot of children have written during that time, and a lot of them have then sort of deconstructed their writing. That when were they writing? They all said they were writing when they were the most stressed, when there was conversation in the house about a parent losing a job, or conversation around somebody being COVID positive and not getting oxygen. So at that moment of absolute despair, they said we went and wrote, and it made us feel, well, not good, but at least took our mind away from what is happening right now.
Therapy.
So I think writing is therapy. It is a de-stressor. And if we can channelize these energies of children in the right way. So it's benefiting them in one sense. It's also benefiting their peers because, children learn from each other much better than they learn from us. So if they see one child writing about something which is becoming a great read, it inspires them to not just read but also start writing. And of course, people feel that writing is not everybody's cup of tea. I'm now veering around the thought that it can be done with the right molding, with the right mentoring. Um, I think there's nothing which can't be done. And this year, when 2024 starts, we are in fact starting something called collaborative writing. So
Right.
even if you have children not being able to write, I think collaboration is something we've really not been overplaying too much because it's all very individualistic. I have done it. It's all about me. Why not work in a group? Maybe I can do great illustration, but I can't write very well. Maybe somebody can write poetry and not prose. So bringing all those elements together to create a work which brings children together and still tells a story. So
Yeah.
how that goes on, I really don't know. But I'm very excited about this storytelling that you have because I do want children to study and know about uncommon people common people doing uncommon things. Because they do get into this, the celebrity, what you just mentioned, that celebrities who they see on TV,
Right.
footballers, cricketers, actors. So the aspirations are very strange and very different then. So nobody's talking about real people.
Right.
And it's high time we start talking about real people and their real stories so that there is that realism that comes in. And it's not just something up in the air that this is my, role model or my hero. And I don't know if I can get there. Have real time heroes, real world heroes, real value heroes.
Yeah. So Aditi, what you just said synergizes with and echoes with our mindset, and
Absolutely.
that's why we've been striving that why don't we do, and we've always been bringing out these unsung heroes from across the globe onto our platforms to create learning, to create inspiration. And I remember the line that we had created now: when winds of change blow, some hide behind walls, other come out and make windmills. And this was inspired by William Komwamba's story, that how this young boy at 13 who was thrown out of the school created windmill out of his father's bicycle and the scrap that was lying around his village to bring
Yeah.
in water where there was famine and drought in his country. And
Mm.
when then he was later on picked up by Howard, and now how has he come back and creating, incubating stories just like that to bring in change, shift, and innovation and creative. So story writing does bring creative thinking. It does inspire people. It inspires others. It helps people. Yeah, there we go. And we call this program during COVID. We initiated this program for young people, school children, and college students, where we call it the MILS program, where Mojosh Inspirative Life Leadership Learning to Learn Success Summit, where we said that no matter if there are no jobs happening, no matter if there are no internships happening, don't lose hope, because do what you love in this time, and then the world will love what you are doing. Amit, what's your take on the same thing, that storytelling as a medium? And I know you're an IP lawyer and you do a lot of work around, your work is also centered around stories that you try and preserve for them or secure for them, make it secure for them. Tell me about it.
I think I was luckier than most in terms of the fact that I had parents at my age who insisted on inculcating the habit of reading and writing. And I remember growing up being mandated. We felt it was we felt like slaves, being slave driven, having to write an English essay on every holiday, every public holiday. Started with 250 words and went up to 500 words in any subject.
Yeah.
What, where, when, why, how, structuring, all, my dad would take out time to talk to us about why did you write this? And I can't say it stuck with all of us, my siblings in the family, but it definitely stuck with me. We did not have television. Television wasn't allowed, perhaps a little extreme, but I grew up reading fiction on weekends and non-fiction on weekdays. So I was luckier. But On the power of storytelling, I remember seeing this film called Amistad by Steven Spielberg. And in that, the character played by the famous actor who plays John Quincy Jones Adams Jr., an ex-president who defends these African slaves, who are being categorized as property, tells this young lawyer. He said, the best lawyer or the lawyer that wins his case is the one who tells the best story. And for me, legal drafting memos, even emails to clients, it's incredibly important to construct that story. And one of the questions I ask colleagues I work with when I look at drafts is, what's the story? What are you presenting as a story? So I think you can't underscore the value of when you use the word story. I guess if you want to get technical, people talk about structure and logic flow and things like that. But ultimately, the ability to put your view across in a simple email to the other side. And I have seen in my career things going pretty wrong when you are unable to communicate effectively. So, I for one, given my profession, I guess, really value the ability of, that storytelling and the urgent need in younger people to actually inculcate the power and the ability of reading and writing. I think both of them go hand in hand. The kind of breadth of knowledge we've this world of super specialization has led us into these silos, which limit us mentally and limit us in terms of imagination. People don't read broadly economics, history, politics, literature, older, I remember our way of punishing each other used to be, I handed my father a copy of Charles Dickens' lesser-known book called Barnaby Rudge, which is an absolutely boring, dreary book that he wrote when he was hard up for money and Victorian writers were paid by the word.
Yes.
So he needed money apparently, and he wrote that book. And if you can get through that book, then you have fortitude and staying power. So, I'd hope to see that sort of, kind of construct today where we can kind of, realize literature can go terribly right and terribly wrong as well. But the power of storytelling, obviously, unimpeachable.
Yeah, yeah. So, what you said initially about the construct of a story is what we lay a lot of stress at the Rex Karmaveer. And personally, for Jerry, that's very important, So that's also been a learning. Plus, you talked about fortitude, but how do you bring resilience? We talk about resilience in our work, that how resilience is a power and how do you build around it. And when that is there, and Jerry was just right now showing you a creative, showing everyone the creative, that we are embarking on this mission or in this program, this initiative, not just about storytelling about ordinary people or doing extraordinary work. We are also embarking, and we've taken upon ourselves that with this, we are also going to help students for life skills, because we've seen during COVID and we've seen right now what's happening is that are we preparing our children for life skills, because we do not know what is in store for us at the snap of a finger. Overnight the world could be topsy-turvy, overnight things could change. So are we readying our students for life is what we are stressing upon, and that's what we are talking about through our work and through the storytelling initiative. So as I said earlier, there's a lot of learning that we are going to bring upon, and we are going to talk about public speaking, articulation, innovation, emotional intelligence, design thinking, critical thinking, empathy, and kindness. These are all the powers that students and all of us as adults also need to be equipped with. Thank you so much for bringing that learning around fortitude, resilience, and yes, we are telling stories every day, every time, and the realistic, beautiful story if we can communicate. And then we are talking about presentation and communication skills as well here, because that's also the need of the hour. So Tara, I'm going to come back to you. Tell me, what do you like writing about, and what is your what is it that you like writing about, and what do you pick How do you pick up the books that you write about? How do you pick up the topics that you write about? I know you are a prolific writer in spite of being a student, having that whole regime of doing things in the school. You have a day school. So tell us about that.
Well, I like to write lots of visual stuff. When I
Hmm.
write, I like to make sure that my writing is something that can immerse a reader. While
Hmm.
while some writing can be surface level, like a news report, creative writing and visual writing has always been more inclined towards me because I enjoy it more and I'm able to express myself more.
Yeah.
But when writing, I like to use a lot of descriptive adjectives. And
Hmm.
while writing, I tend to lean towards darker storylines because I find them more interesting. I love cynicism in the story. I think it's very intriguing.
Cynicism can be a learning as well. You could bring out great learning through cynicism, and uh, we relate to that as well because you have to talk about certain things, and cynicism could be a great tool to do that. Tell me a little more about it. How do you can you give us some examples or something?
Well, one of my favorite writers is Sylvia Plath. She wrote the
Okay.
novel Bell Jar and she also wrote a collection of poems.
Hmm.
She was she was a very troubled woman and her work is a product of her time, but I think that her writing really inspired me because she wasn't afraid to talk about dark topics, and hearing from somebody in that mind space and in that mindset was really interesting because one of my favorite quotes of hers is, you can never be disappointed by somebody if you have no expectations from them in the first place. And it really displayed her cynicism when it came towards reality and how much of a realist she was, and I think that's very interesting.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I'm just so glad I asked and prodded you a little more to say that because we at the Rex Karmaveer and our initiative and all our work talk about real heroes, realism, reality, and grounding. And that is why even this initiative is about real, get authentic, get raw, because that is what life is. When you walk out of the four walls of the school, the real world is nothing like what you have seen there at home or in the school. Real world is absolutely different, and that is why we talk about life skills. At this point, I'm going to invite Jerry into this conversation, and I'm going to ask you, Jerry, to give your insights about what everybody was saying. Plus, I would also like you to take us through the program, the initiatives, the advantages, benefits briefly, so that the audience and everybody can get to know a little about that.
Yeah, so I think I'll start with what Aditi ma'am was saying as an educator, that it's very important to inculcate the habit of storytelling, the futuristic skill, which is the most essential skill of the future. Because storytelling kind of impacts all forms of communication, whether it is spoken communication or written communication. And it also improves your listening skills, because when you're listening to a story, you're improving on your listening skills. And when people speak about communication, they mostly think communication is about speaking and talking, but it is not. Communication is actually about listening, and I'm sure Amit would agree with that, because as a lawyer, as a counsel, you need to listen to people. As a coach, you need to listen to people to help them find solutions to the problems and concerns that they are challenged with or faced with. Yeah. Uh, uh, I, Coming to Amit, I think Amit spoke about how reading is a dying kind of culture, because many youngsters don't read anymore. Audiobooks have replaced the paper books, right? And I think reading is the best gift that you can give to any child, as a parent or as a teacher, as an educator, because uh, like I always joke that, after the dog, after a dog, the book is the human being's best friend. The problem with the dog is you cannot take the dog everywhere, right? The book can be taken everywhere, and you're never alone with a book, right? So you could be waiting for someone in a restaurant or in a classroom. You're waiting for a friend, and you could just open a book and start reading. and you're not alone anymore, right? With a book, I think you get to travel the world, because when an author describes a city or describes a country, you are getting to imagine the country or the city from the viewpoint, from the imagination of the author, who has done her or his own research or their research to kind of bring that to you. So you can actually travel the world through a book, right? And I think what youngsters don't realize, what people don't realize, is reading helps you to go deep into a subject matter. And I think slowly but surely, what is happening in our world, with the with the penchant to kind of get instant gratification or get instant results, we are failing to go deep into any subject. Most people learn subjects today at a very superficial level. Like, if you ask people what does passion mean, they really don't know what it means, because they've not gone deep into the etymology of the word, right? You ask people what does namaste mean, something that they've been saying for years, they don't know what it means, right? And I think that kind of uh, inspires us to say that we need to do this student storytelling fellowship. One, to keep the culture of reading alive, to inspire children to read, because you can't be a good storyteller, a good writer, without reading books, without reading research material. So the two are correlated, right? The reading and writing are actually married to each other. And to bring a good story to life, you need to research a person's history, and for that you need to read. So I think that's something which I want to kind of elaborate on, because I picked that cue from Amit, that we need to kind of keep this culture of reading alive. It's very essential, because even when we are studying in school or college today, we tend to rote, we tend to kind of just mug it. We're not really reading it with a flow, with a feeling, with an inclination to internalize that learning, right? And that's why I always said, most of us, we go to school and college and we study, we don't learn, and we fail to learn. And learning to learn has become one of the most essential skills of the futures. And I think that's where we kind of uh, 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 you know are trying to promote the most essential skills of the futures with the storytelling fellowship, whether it's articulation, whether it's engaged learning, whether it's public speaking, whether it's execution, innovation, because we are actually kind of uh, talking to students in schools about telling true stories of real heroes. We're not asking them to tell us fairy tales. Something which I picked up from our young ambassador Tara is what she said, that you cannot be disappointed by someone from whom you have no expectations. That's profound wisdom for a 11-year-old, right? And I think in the human space, we like to believe that we would not have expectations from anyone, but we do. But then, how do you kind of understand how to manage those expectations, how to understand what you can expect from a person or not expect from a person? Because those expectations, you're right, Tara, do lead to disappointment. And whether we like it or not, we have expectations from people. We have expectations from our children. We have expectations from our parents. We have expectations from our friends. We have expectations from our colleagues. We have expectations from our teachers. We have expectations from everyone. And I think those expectations that a society has from heroes has to be understood, because somewhere along the way, the concept of heroes got hijacked by movie stars and sports stars and celebrities. And with all due respect to them, I have nothing against them, but the point is, how do you define a hero? I think that has to be understood well. And I think you can define movie stars and sports stars as celebrities, but a hero for me is a person who creates value, who brings about a positive change and transformation in society, a person who makes positive contributions for the betterment of society, the country, and the world. And I think that in turn leads to great learning for children, because when you understand that, oh, this is what a real hero is all about, right? And that's why we are specific, that we don't want to encourage children to write fairy tales or fables. We want them to tell us true stories of real heroes. I think that those are my opening thoughts, since I was asked to kind of share my thoughts on this. and it complements what you shared earlier in your
I'd
conversation.
just like to add to what Jerry just said, and I'd like to go back to the Rex Karmaveer Global Fellowship. The Karmaveer words comes from the word that it's a hero and someone who does action, shows action, goes out to do something about things that he is passionate about, he is curious about, and that's where you can bring in curiosity, creativity, and your passion to a greater height. And Jerry spoke about the word passion. So we've gone deeper into the word, and we've gone into the etymology. We always go into the root of the words. And we talk about passion is about enduring and suffering. Something that you love so much that you're ready to go through mill, drill, and grill for something that you enjoy and love, and then make it into your passion in life. And that's how this whole concept of storytelling is, to inspire students to go beyond, go a little more out of the box, go a little more, step into the world with realism, with reality. And that is why I talk about real heroes, don't talk about fables, fairy tales. Yes, that is good to create imagination, that's good to feel good, all of that is, we are not debating that, but we are saying let's inspire students from stories from grassroots, stories from common people around them, stories that you relate to, and stories that you can keep up with as you go into life. Over to you, Jerry, to tell us a little more
Right, right.
about the.
I think this is a story with which everybody would kind of, I mean, I followed the tool which was created by Joseph Campbell, which is the hero's journey, as it is called. That we all live ordinary lives, but then there is a call to action which happens, right? There is a transformative process that happens to each of us, and some of us pay attention to that process, many of us don't. And I think that's what is the journey from ordinary to extraordinary, or from good to great, as Jim Collins calls it. And the storytelling model can be applied to any story, whether it's the Odyssey, which is a classic, or to the book by Harper Lee, which is about the how a uh, lawyer called Atticus Finch, you know, kind of rises to the occasion to defend a black man and creates history, right? And in the lawyering world, whenever I do talks for law schools, I always say try to be an Atticus Finch who takes that stand to do something right, to stand up for what is right. So I think storytelling is a medium which can apply to a legal brief, a marketing brief, a brand brief, because storytelling today is about how do you get that story out and inspire people to say what you have as an offering is something which can add value to them, which can make positive contributions to them. And when you learn about the innovation that a person like Dashrath Manji is doing, right? I mean, our inspiration for the Karmaveer Awards and the Karmakari books is a man called Dashrath Manji. And we wrote about him way back in 2003 when I first met him in a place called Gehalor, and he inspired us to kind of launch the Karmaveer Awards, because I said this puny 5 feet 2 inch man moved an entire mountain over 22 years, right? Working 10 hours every day. And he didn't move the mountain with a bulldozer or an earth mover. He moved it with a hammer and a chisel, working 5 hours in the morning every day, 5 hours in the evening every day. Look at his grit, determination, resilience, perseverance, and persistence to kind of do that. People laughed at him. But he said, you can keep laughing. Nobody's bothered about us because we are considered as the untouchables within the untouchables, the lowest rank of the Dalits or so, right? So how do I ensure that nobody else dies like my wife died because I couldn't cross this mountain on time? It used to take between 16 to 17 hours to reach the nearest healthcare center. Now, we broke his story on the Joy of Giving website when we launched Joy of Giving way back in 2003. And 12 years later, that story was picked and made into a movie by Ketan Mehta, right? So Ketan Mehta makes that movie, and of course, there was a lot of cinematic license and liberty which was used, where he shows Dashrath Manji talking to God. Dashrath Manji was as atheist as he gets, probably a more committed atheist than me also. So there was no way he was speaking to any God, right? For him, the God was within you, right? That you can do this because you have the potential to move a mountain. Now we tell the same story in a lot of professional and other talks that we do. And whenever I ask people, do you think you can move a mountain? They're like intimidated by it. No, no, no. Are you talking metaphorically? Are you talking about some kind of fairy tale? I'm like, no, no, no. I don't tell fairy tales. I tell real stories. So, what can you learn from the Dashrath Manji story? You can learn resilience. You can learn how to find creative ways to cut that mountain, right? You can look at him being a very logical thinker, being a very innovative person, thinking about how can he go about cutting that mountain and creating a long road, right, which is like a 18-kilometer long road today, and how it takes people less than 1 hour today to reach the nearest healthcare center.
Yeah.
So from 17 hours you reduce the time to reach the healthcare center to less than an hour, right? Then you have the story of Lakshman Singh, who has transformed over 500 villages from wastelands into wetlands. What a lot of people studying agricultural science in Cornell University, which is the only Ivy League university, cannot do. A young man called, not a young man anymore, he's almost my age, it's like 53, 54, if you can call that young. Yes, it is young. But Lakshman Singh has transformed 500 villages from wasteland into wetlands in a place like Rajasthan. And today, students learning in the top universities of the world come to learn environmental engineering and agricultural science from this man who has never stepped into a school, right? So what is it that's working for him? How is he innovating, doing watershed management, doing different things to transform wastelands into wetlands? So there's so much more you can learn: innovation, creative thinking, design thinking, like you said, right? So you're not only learning communication, written communication, spoken communication, you're also learning several other skills, right, which are very essential skills of the future. How can you kind of challenge yourself to go beyond what you think your talent is, what is called as growth mindset, right? Because all these heroes, whether it's a Subhashini Mistry or a Lakshman Singh, they actually show you that you can acquire any talent you want at any point of life, right? So that's what growth mindset is all about. But how do you make that learning of growth mindset or emotional intelligence practical and functional? You cannot make it practical and functional with fairy tales or fables. You can make it practical and functional with the stories of ordinary people who are real heroes. For the simple reason that when you tell stories of larger than life heroes, it overwhelms you that, yeah, this can be done by Amitabh Bachchan. This can be done by Shah Rukh Khan. And rightly so. I cannot fight with 15 people like they fight on screen, right? No matter how tough you are. But when you tell the story of an ordinary man who achieved something mind blowing and extraordinary, human beings relate with it, because if they can do it, I can do it too, right? There's no excuse. If a Dashrath
Right.
Manji can move a mountain, I can do it too. I mean, what's stopping me from doing it? And I think that is what inspiration is all about. That is what real motivation is all about. And that's what we are trying to kind of teach with practical examples of real heroes through the student storytelling fellowship.
So I would very briefly like to share, all three of you know it, but with the audience that's sitting in, that we do not just inspire the students to write. We would love all the school leaders, teachers, parents to inspire students, even those who can't write, to support them into writing, researching, and helping them to find stories of the real life heroes. And any student and every student that participates or comes into this program, in this fellowship, gets a participation citation, and we are in partnership with the UN for all our learning programs. So they get a citation, all students get a citation. And from Pan India, we are trying to get 300 stories in three different categories, where we call it the kid power, the teen power, and what is the third one, Jerry? I'm lost with it.
Teen power, kid power, and youth power.
Youth power, sorry. So we will publish these 300 stories in the Karmakari book series. That is going to be the big takeaway. Everyone will get the certificate and citation of learning, and the best we are going to, and the best stories we are not going to take out. The schools, the parents are going to be part of the jury to bring out the best learning stories. We're also
Yes.
bringing in tutorials from best-selling authors from across the globe that synergize with this, who have talked about their stories, who are talking about real stories, how they have shifted their mindset and the mindset of people around them to bring in a story of learning and to bring in a story of inspiration. Over and above that, we are also going to have a master class of how do you better your better. We would not like to say that, we are going to tell you how do you bring story writing, how do you create stories, and that's going to be a master class with Jerry. Along with that,
I think
yes,
I think you'll have to stop you too. Sorry,
it's being streamed,
the
Jerry. It is.
it is being streamed. Okay, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, I
All
can
right,
see.
okay, okay. Sorry about
So,
that. Yeah.
so all those pluses and learnings are going to be part of it. And we're going to take all the students along with their parents and the school into this journey. And at Rex Karmaveer, we call it the Holy Trinity, where children, parents, and the school are going to be together bringing in learning. And that's where the best learning happens. So, this initiative is not just about storytelling. It's going to bring in a lot of coveted best-selling authors from across the globe. A lot of tutorials are going to be given to students to keep as learning for lifetime. There's going to be masterclass. There's going to be fellowship, certificate, and there's going to be a lot of learning through osmosis from each other's stories.
Yes, and
So,
I would like to reiterate that and uh, just kind of articulate those thoughts a little more, because one of
go ahead.
the sayings, one of the thoughts by a slave turned philosopher and writer, which really inspires us to work with students, is this thought by Frederick Douglass, right? He was a slave who turned into a writer and a philosopher, and a very simple thought by him that it is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. I completely believe in this thought and quote because as a leadership coach and corporate trainer, I work with broken men, women, and other genders all over the world. And it's so difficult to actually change mindsets of grown-ups. And those same grown-ups are influencing children to become like them and have the same limitations as them, because in the psychological process it is called indoctrination, right?
Mm.
How we indoctrinate our children to think that they need to believe this, they need to understand what they are capable of. And that's what a lot of parents and educators around the world do. We get indoctrinated, and those limitations get passed on to us. The truth of the matter is that every human being has unlimited heroic potential, and if they wish to, they can move a mountain. If they wish to, they can acquire any talent at any stage. And if we are going to work, like I say always, with the children who are at the apex of the triangle, then we need to change the mindsets of the two communities who are at the base of the triangle, at the two cornerstones of the triangle. One is the parents, and the other is the educators. And the fact of the matter as we speak is that future unready parents and educators around the world are preparing children for the future, right? And it is an inherent belief that we can actually see positive transformation and change in our world if we change the thinking and the mindset of the children. And that is why whatever we are doing with students, whatever we are doing with children, is to inspire them to understand that they have unlimited potential. They are not just the curriculum that they study in school. They're not just the degree that they get in school. They're much more than that, and they can go much beyond that. And I truly believe this, because that's what we do as coaches and trainers. We help people to go beyond. And I think if we can get children to understand how those life skills would impact them in the long term, I think the children going forward in the next 15 years, we will see positive transformation and change in our society and our world. So I think that's what I wanted to share and reiterate. And that is the reason that we are involving the parents, that, don't write the story for your child. Even if your child is in class 5, let them write the story. You can guide them. And then we're involving the teachers to say, you choose the winners in each class in your schools, right? And then we'll bring them into the national finals. Yeah.
So on this note, Jerry, we are almost running out of time. I'd like any insights from you, Aditi ji, Amit, Tara. Closing thoughts.
So I just thought I'll come in just for the last bit that How do we tell a child who is a hero? And I met a very interesting poet last year, and he had this very beautiful thought, which has sort of stayed with me. That we teach our children, when we teach them the opposite hero is a villain. It's not. There's a hero, and the opposite is a bystander who's watching something and doing nothing about it. So let us not be bystanders. Let's make whatever change we can, whatever impact we can make in making society and making our world better. And that is how a child will bring out a hero. That is who a hero will be, who has not stood back or stood around and watched something wrong or bad or harmful or derogatory happening. They stood up and taken a stand.
Very true. And that is how the Karmaveer Awards were started,
I
Aditi.
agree.
We
Absolutely.
give it to people who kind of create some action against apathy. I think it's the apathy and indifference of people in the world which is leading to more evil. We can see it in Palestine right now. We can see it in other places right now. And I think that indifference and that apathy needs to be addressed.
Yeah. And to add to that is our slug line: together as one, we can right every wrong. Over to you, Amit.
Yes.
I completely agree. I think separating our children from knowledge, if you want to use that very cliche term, is separating them from a lot of, you know, uh, what goes into formulating your moral core center, and the ability to question status quos, the ability to question why some things exist or why certain events happen, and why some people behave this way. The culture we live in terms of the technology that surrounds us and our kids, does not enable that sort of appetite for questioning and your own individual search. We are, again, as I said, we are targeting our kids into areas, and technology targets people into certain views, into certain outcomes, into certain behavioral patterns, and 10 different things. I think the ability to access knowledge in terms of books, and honestly, whether it's ebooks or books that older people appreciate, the tactile sort of ability to handle books, and I'm one of those. But whatever it is, the ability to
Us
be
into
able
a bracket, Amit. Yeah, go ahead.
So I think that ability to, kind of be able to foster younger, to be able to encourage younger people to reach their own appreciation by reading people whom they not may not understand. You know, uh, Jerry brought up Atticus Finch, and that's, I think, one of Tara's and my favorite books I've read over the years growing up. And I tended to take away different things from that book when I grew up. And I'm sure Tara will as well. When you're young, you take away a nice, engaging story, and then when you go older and you kind of go back to it, you take, you know, things about racism, about people wanting to live, in a different way, in a different world, subjugation, decency, having a moral backbone, things like that. So for me, that's the most critical part. I think reading books is books parent children as well, and they kind of guide them as parents want to. So I think for me, that's the most critical aspect of being able to be a part of anything that engages in storytelling and building on the power of books.
Over to you, Tara, for the last parting words.
Well, I think that while it is true that real heroes should be admired more than celebrities, I think celebrities still hold, we can't really change who one looks up to, because in our generation, but in my classmates and my grade have we already have heroes, and we already have set standards for what we think heroes are, and we already know that we are attracted to the glamorous aspects of life. Humans are attracted to glamorous aspects of life. And celebrities, films, Bollywood actors, they're always going to be glamorized, they're always going to be put on a pedestal, and we're always going to be attracted to them and think of them as a hero. And while I do think that real life heroes should, in an ideal world, be glamorized just like they are, they aren't. And is it really that bad? Because I think that even though they don't help that much, they still hold value, because they may not be making that much of an impact in the world and only an impact in their field, but that they could be inspiring a little child in poverty in Mumbai, who in a Mumbai slum, who doesn't know what he wants to do in his life, and that could inspire him to go on to become something great. So I think everything holds value, and I think everything does hold value. Everybody can be a hero no matter their profession. I think that you just have to pick your heroes carefully.
Yeah. And those last words were what hold the ground and hold gravitas. That you need to be picking up your heroes. And that's exactly what we are trying to say. Just be a little more discerning, little more realistic, a little more empathetic. Because the glamour world is where it is, but that's not real. Yeah. And we also talk with that kind of power, or with that kind of reach, or with that kind of glamour, what are you doing in real life? Is what it is. So anything to add to any of it, Jerry? And then we shall. You're on mute.
Yeah, I was saying I completely agree. In fact, that's one of the things that we wrote in our book, that if you are championing change, and that is the ethos of the Karmaveer Awards, we do have a lot of movie stars, movie directors, sports people who are also our heroes. But I think it's not just about being on the celluloid screen or being glamorous that makes you a real hero, because everyone can be a real hero, like Tara said. But I think what defines you as a real hero is that, are you championing change? Are you bringing about transformation? Are you inspiring people to stand up for what is right? Are you speaking about what is wrong, right? Or are you silent about it? And the fact of the matter is that very few people, no matter from which space today, are speaking against what is wrong in the world. Most tend to, whether it's people from the corporate world or the media world or the academia or the legal world, we tend to be indifferent and silent about things that are happening in the world. And to quote Edmund Burke, when you have power and influence, and you have the wherewithal to reach millions of people and speak for what is right, then you should do it. Because, to quote Edmund Burke, like I said, all it takes for evil to triumph is when good people stay silent, right? So I think we need to get over that silence. We need to champion change. We need to speak out. We need to stand up and take a stand for what is right.
So on that note, thank you so much for everyone. And one of our most favorite note is by Socrates, that I'm not here to teach you anything. I'm here to make you think. And that's exactly what we are trying to do with our work. Make people think, make people do something, make people shift their mindset and bring about change and become champions of change, no matter what their age. And thank you so much. And we look forward to your support as parents, school leaders, and students, Tara, to talk about this program, put it out across to more people, bring in more people, so that we can go through this initiatives and fellowship together. Thank you
Yes.
so much.
Thank
Thank
you,
you so much.
Aditi. Thank you, Aditi. Thank you,
Thank
Amit.
you.
And
Thank you.
thank you,
Thank you.
Tara. Thank you, Tara,
Thank
for
you.
being with us. And thank you for
You
being
too.
our student ambassador.
Thank
Yes.
you.
We look forward to inspiring many more people with you. And I think you had some great thoughts and profound insights. Thank you so
Yes.
much.
Thank you.
We're going to start our work with you very soon. You're going to be actively doing the work of an ambassador. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
See you.
Thank
Have
you.
a great evening and a great weekend. See you. Bye-bye.
Thank
Thank
you so
you.
much. It's still being live streamed.